My advice? Get a job that doesn't sound made up. That was the last thing Milo Whitaker's father said before draining the rest of his beer, punctuating the sentence with a belch and a slap on the back of his brother. The backyard lit up with laughter, uncles chuckling, cousins smirking, Milo's sister giving him that familiar apologetic glance. Milo, 28, stood by the grill with a paper plate in his hand and a quiet smile on his face. They didn't get it. They never had. For the last 7 years, Milo had lived alone in a cramped studio apartment on the east side of Boise, eating frozen meals and drinking dollar coffee while building a high-frequency algorithmic engine for smart contract processing. In simpler terms, he created something that made blockchain networks faster and more efficient, light years ahead of what traditional systems could offer. Of course, no one at the family reunion cared about that. They cared about his cousin Connor's new management job at a logistics firm. About Uncle Nate's boat. About Milo's brother-in-law Travis, who had just sold a record number of custom motorcycles and was flashing a titanium watch he claimed was limited edition. As if on cue, Travis made his way over. "Still doing your internet thing?" he asked, sipping something brown from a solo cup. "Yeah," Milo replied evenly. "Still doing that. Man, I don't get how anyone makes money on that. Let me know if you ever want me to talk to our finance director, we're always hiring." Milo thanked him and turned back to the grill, letting the smoke sting his eyes so they wouldn't see the look on his face. In his back pocket, his phone vibrated. A single notification. Pending wire transfer, $32 million US. He didn't need to look. He knew what it was. Knew that in 48 hours, the acquisition deal would close and his years of living on hope and hustle would finally be validated in the only way the world seemed to understand, money. But he wasn't going to tell them. Not yet. That night, Milo drove home with the windows down, the warm wind curling through his car like a whisper. His old Corolla rattled at every bump, but it still moved forward, just like he had. At home, he booted up his laptop, triple-checked the contract, and confirmed that everything was in motion. The Belgian tech conglomerate had finalized their acquisition of his protocol, and they were rolling it out across their international platforms. The team had already flown him out twice for consultations, and he had signed a 2-year advisory agreement worth $250,000 a year on top of the lump sum. 7 years. Thousands of hours of code. Rejections. Bugs. Crashes. Loneliness. And now, this. He leaned back in his chair and stared at the cracked ceiling. The victory felt surreal, almost hollow. He wasn't jumping with joy. He wasn't popping champagne. There was no one in the apartment to even high-five. The only thing he felt was a quiet kind of peace. A breath released after years of being held in. He thought about his dad. Doug Whitaker had been a machinist for nearly 4 decades. A man of routine, of function, of grease-stained fingernails and clock-punching pride. He believed in hard work you could see, touch, point to. Not cloud servers or digital assets. Milo might as well have told him he was selling space dust. The last time they'd seriously talked about his work, Doug had said, "It sounds like gambling with extra steps." Milo never brought it up again. Every family gathering since then had played out like a sitcom rerun, awkward jokes, polite concern, and constant reminders that he could still get that IT job at the school district. He didn't blame them, not really. They lived in a world where success wore suits, drove trucks, and came with steady paychecks and 401ks. They couldn't see what Milo saw. They didn't see the economy evolving under their feet. Didn't see decentralized systems changing everything from finance to identity. Didn't see that Milo hadn't just built code, he had built the future. He hadn't told anyone about the offers that had started coming in 6 months ago. The first was from a mid-sized venture fund in Singapore, $4 million. He declined. Then another from a fintech company in Toronto, $11.5 million. He declined again. The third offer, $20 million from the Belgian firm, got his attention. After 3 weeks of negotiation, legal consultations, and quiet pacing around his apartment, they agreed on $32 million plus royalties. He thought about calling his sister when the final paperwork hit his inbox. Thought about telling his dad. But something stopped him. Pride? Maybe. Or maybe he wanted to do something different. Not gloat. Not show off. But give back, quietly, anonymously, without asking for validation. The day before the wire hit his account, Milo made a list. His parents. His sister Riley and her husband Travis. Their 2 kids, both of whom he adored. His aunt Dottie, who'd been quietly struggling since losing her husband. And even Connor, the cousin who always mocked his tech stuff, but had just filed for bankruptcy after a failed startup. Milo didn't want to embarrass anyone. He didn't want to be the rich relative. So he contacted a wealth strategist, a sharp, discreet woman named Nina who had handled sudden wealth for pro athletes and lottery winners. "Most clients in your situation want to make a splash," she said during their first meeting in Denver. "Buy the mansion. The Lambo. Post it all on socials." "That's not really me," Milo replied. She studied him for a second, then smiled. "I figured as much. So, let's build a ghost fund." Together, they created a network of trusts, endowments, and donor-advised accounts. Invisible hands with very real impacts. Medical bills. School fees. Debt relief. Mortgage assistance. Milo's rule was simple: no one would know. And they didn't. Not when Riley called to say their dad's unexpected knee surgery was fully covered by a new health initiative out of nowhere. Not when Connor found out someone had anonymously invested in his failed business to give him one last shot. Not when his niece got a full scholarship to attend a local tech camp sponsored by a regional innovation fund. No one suspected Milo. And yet, somehow, that made it even sweeter. Not because he wanted credit, but because, for the first time, he was helping without trying to prove anything. But even the best secrets have a shelf life. And Milo would soon learn that keeping his identity hidden might not be as easy, or as necessary, as he once believed. Plus, 3 weeks after the wire transfer hit Milo Whitaker's account, his life looked exactly the same on the outside. Same apartment. Same rusty Corolla. Same wrinkled hoodie and black coffee from the corner bodega. But inside, everything had shifted. He still coded. Still maintained the core systems that were now being adopted by banks across Europe. But the urgency had changed. He no longer felt like he was running uphill in the dark. Now, he was walking with purpose in the light. And yet, there was no one to share the sunrise with. Milo had told no one. Not his parents. Not Riley. Not even his best friend Devin, who had once let him crash on his couch for a month when rent was overdue. His silence wasn't about shame, it was about fear. Fear that the moment he spoke the number out loud, everything would change. Because money changes people. Even those who swear it doesn't. And Milo wasn't sure his family could handle it. Then came the call. Riley's voice was shaking. "Emma needs braces, Dad's knee is worse than he's letting on, and now Travis's commission structure at the dealership just got gutted. I don't know what we're going to do." Milo said what any good brother would. "I might be able to help a little." But she hesitated. "Dad wouldn't like that. Especially if it's coming from your internet money." That last phrase landed like a slap. After all these years, even after his quiet success, that's still what they called it. He didn't argue. Didn't explain. After they hung up, Milo sat on his worn-out couch staring at the blank TV screen, caught between resentment and heartbreak. His family still thought he was failing. And the cruelest part? He had already paid off most of their medical bills through anonymous donations. He wasn't looking for thanks. But the invisibility weighed heavy. A few days later, Riley called again, this time in tears. "You're not going to believe this," she said, breathless. "Some community grant just contacted me. They're covering Dad's entire surgery. Said it's part of a local health initiative for working families." Milo smiled, though she couldn't see it. That initiative had been set up just 10 days earlier, seeded with $500,000 under a shell name, Whitaker Family Wellness Fund. "That's amazing," he said. "And that's not all, Emma qualified for some scholarship program through her school. Full orthodontic coverage. Another trust. Another anonymous gift." Riley's voice cracked. "It's weird, right? Like, all this good fortune, all at once? Sometimes the universe works things out," Milo offered gently. But as he hung up, he couldn't ignore the pressure building in his chest. Not guilt. Not pride. Just distance. He was closer to them than ever, in every real way, but they didn't know. Couldn't know. And it was starting to tear at him. The final straw came from Travis, of all people. A late-night text buzzed on Milo's phone. "Dude. Someone paid off the back taxes on your granddad's farm. Anonymous donation. Your dad's freaking out." Milo stared at the screen, then typed. "That's great news." When the family held a small celebration for saving the farm, Milo attended like any other relative. He sat at the long folding table in his dad's backyard, sipping soda from a red plastic cup, surrounded by smiling faces. His dad stood up to give a toast, emotional, proud, and raw. "Someone out there gave us a miracle," he said, glass raised. I don't know who it was. But they reminded me what family really means. Everyone clapped. Well, Milo's Aunt Janice chimed in, maybe it was Connor. He's doing better at work, right? Connor shook his head. Wish I could take credit. Could have been one of those tech billionaires doing surprise donations, Travis said with a smirk. Definitely wasn't Eli's internet money. The table laughed. But this time, Milo didn't. Because the laugh had lost its edge. It wasn't mocking anymore, it was nervous. Uncertain. Something had changed. And Travis knew it. A week later, Milo met again with Nina, his financial advisor. The anonymous strategy is working, she said, reviewing the disbursement patterns. But we're hitting a sustainability problem. You mean they're getting suspicious? She nodded. Exactly. And the closer they get to the truth, the more dangerous it becomes to keep lying by omission. Milo leaned back in his chair. So what are my options? 3, she said, holding up fingers. 1. Continue anonymously, but with more space between gifts. 2. Set up a formal family trust and tell them the truth. Or 3. Reveal everything gradually, on your terms. He didn't answer right away. What's holding you back? She asked softly. At first, he said, I didn't want to rub it in their faces. Now I think I'm afraid it might change how they look at me. Money often does. Milo nodded, gaze heavy. But sometimes, she added, truth changes things more deeply. In better ways. That night, he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. He couldn't help but wonder what might happen if they knew. Would his dad finally respect him? Would Riley finally understand how far he'd gone to protect her? Would Travis stop seeing him as a joke? He wasn't sure. But he knew one person who would understand. Riley. Always Riley. The next morning, he texted her. Coffee? Just you and me? They met at a quiet spot downtown. She looked worried the moment she arrived. Everything okay? She asked. You never do this. I need to show you something. He slid a folder across the table. What's this? A trust. For Emma's education. Fully funded. She blinked, then flipped through the documents. This is millions of dollars, Eli. What is this? He took a breath. Remember my blockchain project? The one Dad always said wasn't real? I sold it. 5 months ago. $32 million. Riley froze, coffee halfway to her lips. You what? I've been helping, he said. Quietly. Anonymously. The surgery. The braces. The farm. She stared at him, stunned. So. All of it? He nodded. I didn't want to make it about me. I just wanted to help. Riley slowly smiled, eyes glassy. You're unbelievable. I need your help, he said. I want to do more, but I want it to be about the family, not about the money. Can you help me tell the story the right way? She reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Always. Together, they started a new chapter. A plan not just to help, but to teach, to share, and maybe, eventually, to be understood. Because for the first time, Milo wasn't building code. He was building trust. Plus. For the next few weeks, Milo and Riley worked in quiet coordination, an unlikely partnership between the black sheep and the golden sibling. They didn't tell anyone outright, not yet. Instead, they planted seeds. Riley began casually sharing articles at family dinners. Stories about entrepreneurs in the crypto space, self-taught coders who'd sold companies from their bedrooms, regular folks who'd built fortunes through tech most people didn't understand. Then she asked Travis, of all people, what do you actually know about blockchain? He shrugged. Not much. Some tech thing with coins and people pretending to be rich. Milo, sitting across the table, chimed in. It's not really about money. It's about trust and transparency, systems where no one controls everything. Travis raised an eyebrow. That so? Yeah, Milo said simply, that's so. To his surprise, Travis didn't mock him. He leaned in, curious. It was a small thing, but it marked a shift. Then came the biggest opportunity yet, Career Day. Emma's middle school was hosting a showcase where parents and relatives could talk about what they did. Riley had suggested it weeks earlier, but now, with the groundwork laid, it felt like the perfect moment. You'd be great, she told Milo. Emma wants you there. And so do Mom and Dad. Milo agreed. What he didn't know was that Riley had arranged for their parents to be front-row guests. Career Day fell exactly 6 months after Milo signed the acquisition deal. He walked into a brightly lit middle school classroom wearing his usual hoodie and sneakers. No suit. No theatrics. Just him. He stepped up in front of 24 kids, a few teachers, and a handful of parents, including his own. He took a breath. 6 years ago, I dropped out of college to work on something nobody in my family understood. They thought I was making a mistake. He looked at his dad, who shifted in his seat. I was developing a type of software that helps secure and speed up online transactions. It's called a blockchain protocol. It's not flashy. It's not easy to explain. And for a long time, I wasn't sure it would work. He paused, let the room sit in silence. Most people thought I was wasting my time. I lived off ramen. I debugged code while my friends were getting married and buying houses. I missed birthdays. Holidays. All for a thing nobody could see. Then, he smiled. 6 months ago, I sold that thing, for $32 million. The classroom fell silent. Even the kids stopped fidgeting. Milo's dad looked like someone had unplugged him from reality. Milo continued, softer now. But that's not the part that matters. What matters is that success doesn't always look like a corner office or a shiny suit. Sometimes, the guy in the hand-me-down hoodie is building something the world doesn't understand yet. He finished by announcing a grant he was personally funding, a technology education fund for the school, covering laptops, coding classes, and summer scholarships for every interested student. When he stepped down, Emma launched into his arms. That was awesome, Uncle Milo. His parents approached slowly, like people walking through fog. 32 million? His dad asked quietly. Actually, closer to 42 now. Bonuses from the licensing deals, Milo replied. His mom covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. His dad just stared at him. The farm taxes, he whispered. The surgery. The braces. Milo nodded. That was you? I didn't want to make a big deal of it. I just wanted to help. There was a long silence. Then, unexpectedly, Travis stepped forward and extended a hand. I knew something was up. Just didn't guess it was this, he laughed, shaking his head. All this time I've been offering you sales jobs. Milo grinned and took his hand. They were good offers. Just not my path. 2 weeks later, Milo helped his parents move into a new house. A single-story home on a quiet street, closer to Riley and the grandkids. No more stairs to stress his dad's knees. No more leaky plumbing or freezing winters. He bought it through the family trust, with their full knowledge this time. As they unpacked boxes in the garage, his dad held a box of old fishing gear, his eyes soft. Still don't understand exactly what you built, he said. But I'm trying to learn. That's all I ever wanted, Milo replied. His dad looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. I'm sorry I didn't see what you were doing. You couldn't have known. No, his dad agreed. But I could have trusted you more. That night, the entire family gathered on the patio. The kids played tag. Travis grilled burgers. Riley helped their mom pour lemonade while Milo helped their dad fix a flickering porch light. Travis was talking excitedly about the beginner coding classes he'd signed up for. Never too late to learn, he said, tapping his temple. Got to keep this sharp. Riley had just launched her own financial consulting business, backed by seed funding from Milo. She already had a few clients, families like theirs, looking to navigate the complex world of debt, planning, and second chances. Emma sat with her mom, showing her how to buy her first Bitcoin using an app. As Milo looked around, he saw something that hadn't been there before. Not just comfort. Not just gratitude. But respect. The family that had once laughed at him now saw him, not just the money, but the quiet resilience that built it. He slipped away for a moment and walked to the edge of the yard. The sun was setting over Boise, casting gold across the rooftops and trees. His phone buzzed. An email. From Vertex Capital. Subject: New consulting proposal, triple rate offer. He stared at it for a moment, then slipped the phone back in his pocket. It could wait. A moment later, his dad joined him. Everything all right? Just soaking it in, Milo said. His dad looked out over the backyard. Your grandfather would have been proud. Not because of the money. Because you didn't give up. Milo turned to him, emotions tight in his chest. I learned that from you. His dad put an arm around his shoulder. It felt natural now. Easy. Come back to the table, he said. Your mom wants to know if she should buy Ethereum next. Milo burst out laughing. Then followed him back toward the table. Toward home. Plus. In the days following Career Day, something shifted permanently within the Whitaker family. The tension that once followed Milo like a second shadow was gone. The awkward silences at dinner, the patronizing smiles, The "so what is it you do again?" questions, gone. What replaced them wasn't awe or worship. It was something better. Understanding. It didn't happen overnight, of course. But it began to grow, like light seeping into a room that had always been dark. And Milo, for the first time in his life, felt truly seen. It changed the way his parents spoke to him. His mother started calling just to check in, not just to ask if he'd found work or needed food. His father, surprisingly, began asking about articles he'd read on smart contracts and decentralized governance. At one point, he even said, "So that crypto stuff might actually be the future, huh?" Milo just smiled. "You're getting there, Dad." But visibility came with new challenges. Now that the family knew the truth, they naturally wanted to know what came next. "I hope you're not planning to just sit on that money," Travis said one Sunday afternoon, leaning back in a patio chair. "You could invest in something real. Start a business. Buy property. Maybe get into real estate." Milo didn't respond right away. He was watching Emma help their mom with the digital wallet app, showing her how to set a PIN and explaining what cold storage meant. "I'm not trying to build an empire," he said finally. "I'm trying to build something that lasts." Travis raised an eyebrow. "Like a legacy?" "Exactly." That word had been circling in Milo's mind for weeks, legacy. The money didn't feel like the end of something anymore. It felt like a beginning. The next week, Milo met with Nina again in Denver. "Now that your family's in the loop," she said, "we can move to phase 2. They discussed everything: sustainability, generational wealth, protection against bad actors. She helped him structure a multi-layered family trust that prioritized education, healthcare, housing support, and entrepreneurial ventures for future generations. "We'll register it as a foundation," she explained, "but with internal governance. That way, you keep control while allowing it to evolve over time." Milo nodded, absorbing every word. "And what about you?" she asked gently. "What are you going to do now?" He paused. "I want to mentor. Invest in people like me, quiet builders, overlooked coders, dreamers who don't fit the mold. I want to be the investor I never had." Nina smiled. "Then let's make that happen." Meanwhile, things were blooming back home. Riley's new financial practice was thriving. She had taken on several clients, many of them women starting their first businesses or managing finances after divorce. Milo helped her build a secure app for tracking budgets and goals, one that integrated blockchain for transparency and accountability. Travis, true to his word, stuck with the coding classes. To everyone's surprise, he was pretty good. "I always thought you needed to be some math genius," he told Milo. "Turns out, it's just like fixing engines. You listen, diagnose, and solve." Milo grinned. "Told you. You're a systems guy." Their mom had started a blog, Crypto and Coffee, where she wrote about learning tech in her 60s. Her second post, titled "What is Ethereum and Should My Garden Club Care?" went semi-viral. Their dad? He took over the old barn on the family farm and started converting it into a community tech space. Whitaker Workshop, they called it. A blend of woodworking tools and donated computers where neighborhood kids could build, code, and dream. One afternoon, Milo walked in and saw his dad teaching a teenager how to solder a basic circuit board. "You know what you're doing?" he teased. His dad chuckled. "Not yet. But I'm getting there." Milo's personal life, long neglected, also began to unfurl. He started going on walks in the early morning, just before sunrise. Sometimes, he'd bring Scout, the rescue mutt he'd adopted months ago but had barely made time for. He read books again. Picked up photography. Went on actual dates, something he hadn't done seriously in years. He even visited his old college campus, where a former professor asked if he'd speak at an entrepreneurship panel. "I dropped out, remember?" Milo said, laughing. "Exactly why they need to hear from you." The event was intimate. Just a dozen students and a few faculty members. But when Milo spoke, about resilience, invisible work, rejection, and risk, you could hear a pin drop. Afterward, a student came up to him, eyes wide with hope. "I thought I was wasting my time. But now, I think I'm just early." Milo shook his hand. Being early is how revolutions start. Back in Boise, the family was stronger than it had ever been. Thanksgiving rolled around, and for the first time, Milo hosted. He'd bought a modest but cozy home just outside the city, with a large open kitchen and a sprawling backyard where the kids could run. The furniture was second-hand. The walls still half bare. But the house was full of warmth, laughter, and the smells of pumpkin pie and garlic stuffing. As they gathered around the table, His dad raised a glass. "I used to think success was about showing up to work on time and never complaining. And don't get me wrong, that still matters. But this year, I learned that sometimes, success looks like a hoodie-wearing dropout building the future in a one-bedroom apartment." Everyone laughed. His dad turned to him. "You gave us more than money, son. You gave us new eyes. And that's something no amount of cash can buy." Milo swallowed hard, blinking back the sting in his eyes. "Thanks, Dad." "No," his dad said. "Thank you." After dinner, Milo stepped outside, a mug of cider warming his hands. The stars were out, clear and sharp over the dark outline of the hills. Riley joined him a moment later. "You okay?" "Yeah," he said. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About what comes next." She bumped her shoulder into his. "You'll figure it out." He looked over at her. "Hey, Riley?" "Yeah?" "Thanks for believing in me." "Before anyone else did." She smiled. "I always knew you were building something big. I just didn't know it'd be this beautiful." Milo exhaled, long and slow. For the first time in his adult life, the future didn't feel heavy. It felt open. Not because he had money. But because he finally had roots, respect, and a family that believed in him. He wasn't building alone anymore. He was building legacy. Plus. Exactly 1 year after Milo signed the deal that changed everything, he stood barefoot in the converted barn of the Whitaker workshop, watching a 12-year-old girl use a soldering iron for the first time. Her hands were shaking a little, but she was focused, steady. Beside her, Milo's dad offered soft encouragement, wearing his old mechanic's apron and a look of pure pride. Milo leaned against the doorframe, sipping lukewarm coffee, thinking about how far they'd all come. The barn, once filled with rusted tools and memories of his grandfather's farm life, was now humming with potential. Kids tinkered with Raspberry Pis and breadboards, built simple robots, wrote their first lines of code. Laughter and curiosity filled the air like music. They called it the Whitaker Legacy Lab now. A year ago, he'd thought legacy meant setting up a trust and securing financial safety. Now he knew it was something deeper. Legacy wasn't about what you left behind. It was about what you built with people, what you nurtured, taught, inspired. Earlier that morning, Milo had spoken at a tech accelerator downtown. He didn't wear a blazer or pitch a startup idea. Instead, he told the room of wide-eyed founders what no investor ever told him. Don't build to impress. Build to serve. After the speech, a woman from a nonprofit approached him. "We're launching a pilot program to bring tech education to rural schools," she said. "We don't need a check, we need a builder. Would you help?" Milo gave her his card. "That's exactly the kind of project I'm looking for." The consulting gigs hadn't stopped. If anything, the offers came faster, bigger names, bigger money. One multinational offered to license his optimization engine for $12 million a year. He said no. Instead, he helped a group of underfunded developers in Nairobi optimize their crypto remittance network, for free. Money, Milo had learned, wasn't the endgame. Freedom was. Freedom to say no. To choose who you help. To stay grounded. That afternoon, as he pulled into his driveway, he noticed his mom's car already parked in front. She was inside with Emma, who was showing her how to install a cold wallet app on her phone. "We've come a long way from printed directions and sticky notes," his mom laughed. Emma beamed. "Grandma's got her own crypto wallet now." "Next up," Milo joked, "NFTs of her cookie recipes." "Don't tempt me," she said. "People would pay for those snickerdoodles." Later that week, Riley invited the family over for a low-key dinner. No speeches. No surprises. Just food, laughter, and warmth. Her practice was now one of the most trusted boutique financial firms in the region, known for helping underserved families navigate inheritance, debt, and opportunity. She credited Milo for the inspiration. "It wasn't the money," she told him one night. "It was the courage to go your own way. You gave me permission to do the same." Travis, now working part-time as a freelance developer, brought along mock-ups for a mobile game he was building with some friends. "Still figuring it out," he admitted, "but I haven't been this excited in years." Milo fist bumped him. "It suits you." Emma, meanwhile, had become a rising star in her school's tech club. She'd recently won first place at a statewide coding competition with a project that helped organize community pantry donations. "She gets it from her uncle," Riley whispered with a wink. One evening, Milo took a solo drive out to the old overlook, the same one he'd parked at the night before his wire transfer came through, when everything was about to change but nothing had yet. Tulsa twinkled in the distance like a glowing circuit board. This time, though, he didn't feel like an outsider looking in. This time, he felt connected. His phone buzzed. A text from Nina. Received confirmation. Whitaker Legacy Foundation officially registered as 501c3. Congrats, Milo. You did it. He stared at the message, smiling to himself. He had done it. But more importantly, he wasn't done. He walked back into the barn later that night, after the kids had gone home. The space was quiet, save for the low hum of a cooling fan and the warm scent of sawdust. His dad was wiping down a workbench. "Hey," Milo said. "Hey." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. "Foundation papers just came through," Milo said. "It's official now." His dad nodded slowly. "That's big." Milo looked around the room, the polished wood floors, the shelves of donated tech, the wall lined with photos of smiling kids holding certificates and prototypes. "Didn't think it'd look like this," he admitted. "Me neither," his dad said, setting down the cloth. "But I'm glad it does." They exchanged a look, deep, unspoken, full of all the things that used to go unsaid between them. "You know," his dad added, "your grandpa always said the farm should be more than a place to grow things. Said it should be a place where people learn to grow." Milo's throat tightened. "Guess we're doing that now." His dad clapped him on the back. "Proud of you, son." This time, Milo didn't flinch. He didn't downplay it. He just nodded. "Thanks, Dad." As they closed up the barn for the night, Milo stepped outside, letting the cool air hit his face. The stars were sharp again, like they had been a year ago. But this time, he didn't feel alone under them. He was building something real. Something lasting. And not for recognition. Not for wealth. But for the quiet, powerful joy of knowing he had helped others find their path. He pulled out his phone, opened the Notepad app, and typed 4 words. "Legacy isn't about credit." He saved the note. And then? He went home. Because tomorrow, the kids would be back in the barn. And Milo Whitaker would be right there with them, hoodie on, sleeves rolled, teaching them how to build the future.